All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today we're heading to Kansas City, Missouri to catch up with Dionandre Josenberger from Competitive Edge. Dionandre, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Rich. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this. Short notice. We're heading over to Missouri for you. Anybody else like myself that's geographically challenged, we're heading to the Missouri side of Kansas City. We call that, what I learned about 30 seconds ago, we call that north of the river, I think you said.
Correct. Yep.
Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the Competitive Edge. Give us a little brief background before we dive into some more details.
So we're just north of the airport. So we're in a great location just north of the airport. We opened our doors in January of 2019. So we fought COVID just about a year going in. Owner of our facility is Jeff Marriott. He's a football guy, played at Mizzou and had a cup of coffee in the NFL. So through mutual contacts and friends, we've gotten together and brought me on to be director of baseball operations here at Competitive Edge, and it's been a great journey, really enjoyable. We're growing pretty quickly, and we're up to about 17, 18 teams after starting with about 4 or 5 our first year. So that's a little bit about Competitive Edge.
So the owner's a football guy. Is Kansas City much of a football area? I'm not really
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, we're defending champions with the Kansas City Chiefs, of course. But yeah, it's a football area, and Kansas City's got really good baseball too. I think it's really kind of underrated on the youth side of baseball, but we put out several prospects and high-level baseball players here in Kansas City.
So got to give a plug to my college coach, Jim Farr, at the College of William & Mary. He's been a long time scout with the Royals, and he's picked up a couple of Virginia guys on that roster out there that you probably get to see from on a normal basis. And my mind goes blank. Vinny Pasquantino.
Oh yeah, Big Vinny.
Big Vinny. He's from right down the street from me, and my mind goes blank. Daniel Lynch, I believe, right-handed pitcher. I believe he's with the Royals. Both boys that I filmed when they were in high school, and they were, both about 140 pounds at the time, and now look at them, full-grown monsters. And Vinny's I wouldn't want to cross Vinny. He's a big man.
Yeah, he is a big man, but he's a character. He's got a great personality. He does a lot of interviews on local sports radio shows, so he's kind of a fan favorite.
I was cracking up at Vinny the other day. There was a video of him. So they were zoomed in on him tight, and he was he's on field, and his mom is on the other side of the net taking photos of him, taking photos of the game. And he's like, "Mom," he's like, "You don't have to take so many photos. We have professionals who do that here for you." I was like, that's so good. That's so good. Okay, we can't talk Kansas City. We can't get by. What's the latest with Taylor Swift? What's the latest?
Man, honestly, I'm
over
Taylor
it?
Swift stuff. I'm not a Swiftie, but it's definitely brought a lot of hype and notice to Kansas City. So I'm, we've got the World Cup coming here soon. So Kansas City's in a great place, and Taylor Swift has definitely brought some light to it. When I watch football games, I want to watch football. I don't want to watch Taylor Swift in a booth, but
100%.
She's here right now. I know that for a fact.
She a lot of people across the world have now figured out where Kansas City is on the map. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's not going to stop either. It's just going to continue. Like I said, we've got the World Cup coming here soon, and with Taylor Swift, I think Kansas City is going to be a happening
Blowing up. Your real estate,
yeah.
real estate's going to appreciate big time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Travis Kelsey just invested in a new private gated community house since his relationship with Taylor. So
there you go. Well, listen, I've been saying for about 10 years that there's only two types of people in this world. You got Taylor Swift fans and people who are lying about being Taylor Swift. Okay, I mean, everybody I know is a Taylor Swift fan. I just never knew it was gonna take over the NFL broadcast the way it is. That is enough about Taylor Swift. We will move on to baseball and to the competitive edge. The first question I'm curious about is how a football guy and a baseball guy come together to put both sports under one roof, and how's that work? Tell me a little bit about that.
We were actually introduced through some mutual friends. He's a baseball guy. His original intent was just to open a facility to have people available to train, not to have showcase teams or host teams, honestly. And so everyone kept asking him, hey, you're going to have teams, And he's like, I have no idea about baseball and the ins and outs of how baseball works when it comes to building that. And so we were introduced through a mutual friend, and we met, and I was looking to good timing for a transition. And it worked out there. So, we've got a really good relationship when it comes to the direction of what we're trying to do. He's a great owner. Every dime that has been made has gone back into the facility to offer the best. Like he likes to say, we want to give our players the best chance to maximize their ability, and he's going to put every dime that he has into being able to do that. So it's a blessing to be in that situation. It's a blessing to be part of an owner that doesn't pay himself, but puts it back in the facility and invests in our program. As far as the football part of it, it's a small part of it, and generally speaking, it's mostly off-season training and some summer training for that. But baseball undoubtedly is our biggest commodity, and that's what we're trying to continue to grow.
Gotcha. Obviously, I'm very familiar with the ins and outs of baseball facilities and all that has to offer as far as the lessons, the camps, those things, even cage rentals. But on the football side, is it mostly strength and conditioning that these guys are doing, or are they coming in here off season, obviously, and doing skill specific work? I'm totally clueless about the football off season. So
both. It's both. We do both of those. We do training, and then we do skill specific lessons where he brings in a group of coaches and a group of players, and they work on skills and break that down. Since we have the space inside and outside, we've got that great space outside where we can get out when it's nice and warm, and we can break down baseball and football skills. So it's a unique opportunity. Both of his boys play football, and they're big into football. His son's a starting quarterback at one of the local high schools as a sophomore, big-time prospect and athlete. So football's definitely a part of it. But, like I said before, baseball is our main what we identify and the community identifies us with.
Obviously, deep in baseball and hitting coaches, pitching coaches, they're kind of a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. I always thought that a quarterback coach and a kicking coach in a halfway decent size city like my city or your city could run a heck of a business for himself. You go out there and you find a handful of guys you're going to pay each week to work out, and you're going to kick or throw or do whatever you do. Do you guys have those guys in-house, like on staff, or are you bringing in outside guys and just saying, hey, we've got the players, we'll pay you to come work with them?
Yeah, I think it's on the football side of it. Well, actually, let me back up. Everything that we do as far as staff, we really don't have any full-time, I would say, staff. I'm probably the closest thing to an employee that we have. Even our strength training conditioning, Cheyenne, she does a great job. Everybody works on percentages, right? So the more business that we bring in, everybody grows. So we don't have full-time staff. So all of our, like I said before, we work on percentage basis. But the football side of it, I know that Jeff's worked primarily with some local coaches and bring those in for specific skills and positions, and we do that. As far as the kicking part of it, I haven't seen much kicking up there.
All right, well, set up a camp. I'll come out. I'll come out and come out and run it. I'll come out and run. I know nothing about it, but I'm happy to get it off the ground. I'll watch a YouTube video. No, the reason I ask about all this is I think, and I put it on myself too. It's like we get so caught up in tunnel vision on our thing being baseball for us baseball guys, and most people that are listening are probably baseball guys. And I just find it so interesting when you see examples of people that are using essentially the same type of space that most of these facilities look like, right? It's a building with cages and mounds. That's, simply put. But then to see that all of a sudden, boom, here's a facility that's doing something completely different and have a different revenue stream. It might be not the majority of their revenue, but it's a part of it. And I just think that's, I just think it's creative. And I think there's enough kids out there and enough family looking for this that there's probably other people out there that can replicate and add football on it. It's counterintuitive. Hey, we got this baseball training facility. Why would we add baseball? Well, why not? And I look at your place. By the way, it's a good time to direct people to y'all's Twitter is at CE, as in competitive edge, at CE showcase _. And then the website is on www.ceathlete. And I would suggest people go there, and on the homepage, if you scroll down a little bit, there's some slideshows of some photos of the facility and a couple short videos. Man, it's a really impressive place. Can you describe what the building and the outdoor facilities look like for the listeners?
Yeah, so the indoors, we have 17,500 usable space. It's a unique design which allows our offices to be on the outside of the playing field. So that 17,500 is all usable space. We have 6 cages, all retractable netting with about 25-foot high ceiling. So we can open up the entire place, which makes it really, really nice. Right now, we've got a section of it, as you'll see in the videos, for our strength and conditioning area. And I was telling you previously that we're about to open up a 3,000-foot weight room specific area. So that space that we have designated inside right now is going to move to the west side of our building, and we're going to move that out in the area that we use now for strength training. Is going to become a pitching lab with TrackMan and all the technology. So we're always continuously trying to improve the facility. Like I said before, we just put up lighting. Like I said before, every dime that is made goes back into the facility. Our owner doesn't pay himself, so we have a unique design that really allows us to make decisions that's best for athletes and put them in the best position to maximize their ability. There's not a whole lot of people that can say they're not getting paid or taking money out to do that. So I think that allows us to stay at the core of why we do these things.
If you can imagine, if you're listening and you haven't made it to the website, and you can imagine, it's essentially a giant metal building, but the key for the inside is no poles. There's 0 poles, and I love that. I mean, not everybody has that luxury, but man, if you got it, you got it. It's awesome. And then having that space outside is incredible. It's like a small football field, not quite the size of a football field, but you can also do tons of baseball out there. And almost, you know what, I kind of press you on this a little bit before we hit record, but in the same way I'm encouraging other people to think about, hey, maybe we should add football. Man, first thing I think of when I see this big open green turf area is soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, So I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years, all of a sudden, a soccer guy walks through your door, a field hockey guy walks through your door, a lacrosse guy walks through your door, and now all of a sudden, you're not just the baseball, football, speed guys. You're the baseball, football, lacrosse, field hockey, soccer place.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you say that, but those people have already walked through our doors.
I bet.
We've had soccer in there. We even had youth cheerleading in there during COVID when they couldn't get in access to the high schools. They rented our place, so there was times that I was in there training and giving lessons with 70 cheerleaders from about the ages of 8 to 14. So we definitely use the space and get creative with the space, for revenue streams to pay the bills, and also help, to keep costs down for our baseball players and families. But at the same time, we want to make sure that facility is available and accessible for all our athletes. And that's the biggest thing that I would say is our athletes, part of their fee structure is they could use and access our facility 24/7 as much as they want. So we do not limit that, and we really, really encourage that.
Sorry about that. That's my dog barking at somebody at the door. We'll try and work past it. Yes. So okay. So speaking of, hang on. All right, that's enough of that. Speaking of the main athletes in that building, your ball players, let's talk baseball a little bit. You guys, you said you started the year before the pandemic. What a time to start a business, first of all. So you must be doing something right if you can weather that storm just 12 months into existence. Talk to me about the team side of your business, and how you said you started with I think you said a handful of teams, and now you've I think just about tripled.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is we're trying to find like-minded players and families and staff. I think that's what's important. So, in our vision is we know that we're not going to be a 40-team facility. So we want to try to surround ourselves with the best possible people and build the best brand possible. So, I think one of your questions, not to jump the gun, is what would you tell people that are starting this facility?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And the biggest thing is to stick to your values and be patient. Mm-hmm. Especially in the world of baseball where there's a lot of transition. You have to stick to your core values and be patient. And I think we've done a really good job of that. We tell people the truth. We speak from a place of concern and value, but also of honesty. And I think that's what's allowed us to be able to grow the way that we are and be able to sustain a quality product.
Yeah, that's good, man. I tell you what, that is a tough lesson in being patient, because everybody wants to move fast. Everybody wants to go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen every time, So
it doesn't. In our models, like I said, we know who we are and what we're trying to be. We want to be one of the best in the facilities and do all those things, but we don't want to sell our soul to do that, right? And we don't want to start changing your core values. And I think that's how the minutia happens and the problems happen. And I feel like we've never compromised that. and that's just allowed us to be at this point. I feel like we have a really positive reputation in the community, and we treat people the right way. We treat people fairly. We're available for them to communicate. Because honestly, like I've said many times to other people, we're dealing with people's two biggest commodities: their money and their children.
Right?
So,
man, that's a mic drop if I've ever heard one.
Right. So we have to acknowledge that there's going to be some emotion and some concern, and we have to be open to that, and we have to listen to that, and we have to keep that in the forefront of our minds to be able to move in the direction that we want to move.
God, I can't get past that quote. A parent's two biggest commodities: their money and their kids. That is. You just had the quote of all quotes. I tell you, man, I think I've been saying it for, I don't know, forever. Parents don't want the cheapest. They want the best. They want the best for their kids. And if they can get a little bit of a deal or get a little bit of a discount, that's a bonus. But the way you just put it was so eloquent. So when you guys first started, what age groups did you have 5 years ago?
Okay, so we started with just some youth teams. We didn't break into high school. We had one high school team, and so we had 3 or 4, 9, 10, 11. I don't remember quite what it was, but I know we only had one high school group, and that was intentional. That was specifically intentional because, you pay the bills with your youth teams, but you build your program with high school and showcase, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have really good high school showcase programs, I don't think you're going to be a sustainable program. So we wanted to build with the youth part of it so that we can build our high school instead of just taking bad players or teams. And so once we did that, I think people started respecting that. And then, we get a couple people that want to come over and join our organization. We got a really good group of 2024 at the time that wanted to come over as a team. And we did that. And we just kind of built it slowly from there, and then word gets out and some other people want to join. And our goal is to have 2 competitive teams in every age group from 9 to 14, and then 2 to 3 in our high school program.
This goes right back to what you mentioned earlier with patience and not rushing, because it would have been easy to throw a team at every age group at the high school level, but in doing so, you put a product out there that maybe wasn't up to your standards, was not as strong on the field, and that could have jeopardized the future. So
I completely agree, and that's the conversations that myself and the owner have had. Like, hey, I know we can do this, but is that what's best for our brand in the long run? And I think we've been consistent with not doing that. We've even made the decision to move different directions with a couple of teams that we had in the organization because it wasn't aligning with that. Not because they were bad people or anything. They just weren't aligning with what we were trying to do. One of the things is when we get to the high school showcase level, we want to make sure we try to take out the parent coaching aspect of it. And don't get me wrong, youth sports would not exist without parent coaches. But I think at the stakes that we're playing for these days, it's important to make sure we're hiring and putting the best people in the positions that are non-biased to put our players in a position to be successful. And so we try to do that at the high school levels especially.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. Such a good lesson to be, vocalizing here for anybody that's listening is like, stick to your core values, be patient, don't rush, because a short-term decision that maybe puts a couple bucks in your pocket today could jeopardize your tomorrow, your next year, the year after. And part of this is about let's get to next year. You know what I mean? Let's get to next decade. So important. Man, this is good. I'm enjoying this. I want to talk about some of those other standard questions I always ask coaches, because I love getting their perspectives, and getting, hearing the different ideas, and same questions lead to so many different directions we can go. But the first one's sort of a layup, or can be a layup. I don't know. Sometimes it takes us in a million different directions, but it's really a question asking about resources. Like, I ask what books, movies, websites, Twitter accounts, anything. What resources that you go to do you find yourself that you're recommending to anybody, whether it's other coaches or players or parents? Is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
There's one book that I always refer back to, and I was referred to this book by Dayton Moore. He used to be the general manager of the Kansas City Royals, now special assistant to the general manager for the Texas Rangers, who just obviously won the World Series.
Yeah.
He's been a mentor of mine. Our two boys grew up playing against and together with each other, and now they're both playing pro ball. But the Mind Gym is a book, Athlete's Guide to Inner Excellence, that I recommend for coaches and players. And it's by Gary Mack and
this was
David.
Somebody else just mentioned this 2 or 3 conversations ago, and since it's the second time being mentioned, I'm going to go order it today.
It's an easy read. And I refer that to a lot of coaches and a lot of players. And that's one of my go-to books. And then the other one for me, honestly, is Tony Dungy's Quiet Strength, which is one of my favorite books. And I encourage any coach to read that book. And it's really, I've gotten a lot of inspiration from that as well, not only on the Christian side, but actually from the coach's perspective. And it talks a lot about making decisions that align with your goals and your faith, and not stepping outside of that. And so I always
loved Dungy. Man, I always loved Dungy.
Have you had a chance to read that book?
No. So there's 2 of them I think I got to put, and I always try and tell people this, man. Listen, I'm on Amazon right now. Mind Gym by Gary Mack.
Easy read, really easy read. It's broken up into some small.
You can buy
short stories.
You can buy new. You can buy new for $11. Okay, you don't have $11. You can buy it used for $1.65. This is what I try and tell people. Like, you have $1.65 in the couch cushions. Go buy the book. Maybe you don't read it the day it comes in. Maybe you read it a year from now. But buy the book. Spend $1.65. It'll be on your shelf when you're ready for it. It's there. There's no reason not to have these books like this laying around. So good. All right, let me ask you one last question here and see where this takes us, because I have a feeling you're going to have a couple different rabbit holes for us to explore. What one change do you think could be made to the travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
Oh man, the one thing I would probably say is cost.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of people have brought up that, but I've always been under the I don't want kids to lose opportunities that the ability allows them to have because of money. Mm-hmm. Everything takes money, but the cost of bill play on these teams, the cost of travel, the tournament, expensive.
Yeah.
That would be the one thing that I would say. And then the other thing is, now I think parents have the ability to make the decision they think is best for their families. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But all of this team jumping, and there's just no loyalty anymore. And so some way to regulate that, in my opinion, would be awesome. But at the same time, I don't want to restrict people from other possibilities. And I'm the first one to tell my players, here's the thing. if I think you need a new situation, for negative reason or positive reason, I'm going to be the first to tell you. If I think you've outgrown us and we can't provide what you want as a coach and a person that cares about you, I'm going to tell you that you should probably look into another opportunity. That rarely happens, but of course we lose players anyways for a variety of reasons.
The second one's a tough one. The first one's a tough one, but I got some ideas. Right. The second one, I don't have a lot of ideas or comments but the first one.
But you don't disagree though.
Yeah, man. There's definitely a lot to be said about the team jumping. Honestly, I spoke about this with somebody the other day. It's not just baseball. It's modern day culture, right? Like, and I said, I used this example on the last call when we spoke about this. My dad worked. He started at a company pushing a broom, okay, and some 40 years later, he finished as a high level executive with the same firm. He's that stereotypical guy who hung around long enough and was rewarded with a fancy watch and a pension and those things. That's not the way we are approaching it. Where every 2 to 5 years, my generation is looking at a different employment opportunity. It's a very different world. I mean, and then look at, same things happening now. It's like the transfer portal is probably one of the spots where it's getting highlighted the most. But yeah, it's not just travel ball. I think it's a cultural thing to kind of look for a difference, look for the next opportunity. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, honestly, you can drill down deeper. I mean,
that's definitely a crapshoot, and I'm not knocking anyone for bettering their situation for that when it fits what your family's trying to do. The thing I'm speaking about is you got some kids that won't even commit to a team, and they'll just go play with a different team every weekend. I'm like,
oh, that's brutal. That's brutal.
Yeah, that kind of a thing. Or there's several kids here in Kansas City that do that. Oh, we're not going to commit to, but we can play for you when you want to. Well, that's not the team concept
we're good. If I'm you, the answer's easy. We're good, man. Like we love you.
It.
We love you. We're going to cheer for you. We want nothing but the best, but that's not what we're looking for at on my team and my organization. And that can be tough sometimes, especially if the kid's a high-end kid and he can help you this weekend. But you've talked a lot about sticking with the core principles, the values, the morals, and that's you can dictate that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's open up the can of worms on the financials, because it's a topic. It's a big topic, and it's deserving of conversation. And where do I start? I'll start with this. Baseball's a hobby, and all hobbies cost money. All hobbies cost money, and obviously, we're in the baseball world, and I talked earlier about how sometimes we get caught up in the baseball stuff, right? And we don't think about the other worlds out there. And I remind people, if you think baseball is expensive, be happy your kid isn't into wakeboarding, and you got to go buy hockey. I got cousins that are hockey players. Holy cow, right? But I mean, your kid decides he wants to get into rodeo. And you got to go buy that kid a meat vehicle. You got to go buy that kid a animal that's going to be. Listen, I was talking to a horse lady the other day. You know what horses cost? She was gonna sell one for $125,000.
Oh my God!
Yes. So yeah, baseball's expensive. That's what everybody says. I guess compared to some things, it probably is. Compared to Little League, travel baseball is expensive. Compared to American Legion, yeah, travel ball's expensive. Now, I will also reiterate what you said, because I agree with you 100%. The travel part. If a family can separate the baseball part from the travel part, and I've had a lot of guests from the Midwest on here, guys from the Chicago area, guys from, you start moving up towards the colder, the Minnesotas, you heading up those lakes, those Great Lakes. Man, there's some blue collar guys up there. And one of the things I've noticed from that region specifically is, man, mom and dad, they'll send little Johnny off by himself. They don't feel obligated to go to every single inning of every single game. And so a lot of my friends up there who are running organizations, part of their organization is they've got a couple 15-passenger vans. And they're going to head down to the road, whether they're going to head to Georgia or wherever, and they throw the kids in the back of the van. Mom and dad are going to stay home. They'll skip it. No big deal. So that's like one sort of tactical way to cut the cost of travel baseball is simply don't go to every single event. Now that's hard. Yeah. I want to be at my kids' stuff. I get that, but it comes at a cost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's sort of like a couple of different. I'm just sort of thinking out loud here, and I want to get your take on a different topic. Fundraising. What do you think about just when I say the word fundraising? What comes to mind?
Oh man, that's one. Thankfully, I don't have to do much of it anymore. But over the years I've done tons of fundraising. I think at this point, our next goal is to try to do something like a golf tournament for the facility, to put money back into the facility and cut costs for some players and even scholarship players, which we do already. And we leave it up to each one of our teams and coaches of how they want to handle the fundraising. We don't say yes, you do, or no, you can't. Yeah. We actually partner with our teams that choose to do fundraising and push back their fees until their fundraising efforts are over, and then the parents can pay the difference. So I love that. So we do that. That's one of the things I think that makes us different. We don't have hard lines of when certain things are due specifically if your teams participate in a few different fundraisers. So,
in your experience, the folks who complain, and rightfully, listen, if it's expensive and they say it's expensive, okay, cool, I got you. But then when given the opportunity to offset their fees with whatever fundraiser you put in front of them, are those the same people? Are the complainers the same people who are taking the bull by the horn and doing the fundraising?
You know the answer to that.
Exactly.
You know the answer to that.
That's the thing. Listen, man, I've dealt a little bit in the softball world back in the early days of playing school, and what I found with the softball, here's a specific example. A team I worked with called the Virginia Legends. They were running a budget for their top team that was like $125,000 for the year. That's
insane.
Their kids would fly to every tournament. Mom and dad were coming out of pocket $300 for the year. And how did they do that? How did they do that? Because the culture of softball, and I don't know if it still is, but about 10 years ago, the culture of softball was fundraising, and mom and dad would put sweat equity into it. And so bingo was the name-o, and they would dominate the bingo halls, and they would work these bingo halls every week for 50 weeks a year, and they're getting a cut of the bingo hall. And then they would host a big tournament, so there's some more fundraising, and then they would host a couple of golf tournaments. Yeah. But mom and dad put in sweat equity every single week for 50 years. One of the 12 or 15 families on a team, right? Because softball has smaller rosters. They were responsible for running the bingo hall. And I just don't see that on the baseball side. I see people who don't like the price, but then push comes to shove when the opportunity presents itself to do some kind of sweat equity and do some fundraising, they're like, no, I'll just write the check. Check. So
I completely agree. Of course, there's exceptions to that, but
100%. 100%. There's definitely edge cases, and there's the kid who definitely deserves and needs that scholarship, and without question. So there's definitely edge cases. But the other thing that's kind of, I think, part of this conversation is the importance of skin in the game. I think there's a world where we could make this free for everybody. Like Major League Baseball could step up and make travel baseball free for everybody. They could snap their fingers tomorrow and make this free for everybody. Would that benefit the industry, or would that be a detriment to the industry? Because now all of a sudden little Johnny there's no allegiance. He doesn't have any strong ties to your brand, to your community, to your team, to your coach. You know what I mean? And now when the getting gets tough, what's that saying? When times get tough, they may feel like, oh well, man, he looked at me a little bit weird. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at me funny.
I think you're right on it.
He might jump ship just because you looked at him funny.
You're exactly right. I actually had this thought even last night or this morning, is that the more you give people, the less they tend to appreciate it.
It's like, and maybe you don't even look at them funny. Maybe they just catch wind that the team across the river is getting some fancy hats, and now all of a sudden they want that hat. You know what I mean?
Well,
so it's definitely it's a big topic. This fundraising topic, the money topic, is a big topic that's worth conversation.
Yeah, the one thing that goes along with that is we've had a few players want to come to our organization, and I generally ask why. Well, I know so some people that were playing for other organizations and were playing pretty well, thriving, and they were playing for free. And I'm like, you're playing for free and you're playing every game. Why are you wanting to switch? Because to me, that's an important answer. I want to know what we're getting ourselves into. If these people are providing you with this ability to play the game that you love and potentially get you a scholarship and go to college, and they're doing it for free, why would you want to leave that? And so how they answer that question really matters if they're going to be a part of our organization or not. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, the whole fundraising thing is it's a big can of worms. I've got this theory that any one of these organizations, just like yours, you could hire, okay, follow me here. You could hire a professional fundraiser, okay? Not some baseball person. You hire a pro whose last job was in fundraising at the local college down the street, or maybe he or she was in fundraising at the prestigious private school down the road. These people are pros. They're used to raising millions of dollars a year. You could hire one of these people and say, hey, you're going to be full-time. You can take 10% of everything you raise. 10% goes to you, okay, as their salary. Or make it 5%. I don't care, whatever. You could go out and raise, she or he could go raise $1 million. Their salary is $100,000, 10%, and that leaves $900,000 for your organization to put into their budget, and you could scholarship every player forever. Yeah. And I just don't know. I'm not convinced that has a net positive on the culture of the organization. I'm just not,
I agree.
I'm
I
not sold.
I completely agree. I agree. I think, like I said before, the more you give people, the more they feel entitlement, and I think that's a cultural issue that we're fighting. And then it aligns directly with practice and opportunities and playing time. There's people that want something for nothing. I just had a conversation with a mom this morning when I was at the gym, and her conversation was her son, who's playing college baseball, asked the coach if he could take 2 days off and work out to go hunting. And I laughed. And I'm like, he didn't really do that, did he? She goes, yeah, what's wrong with that? I go, you don't understand the team dynamic. Because I just started laughing. I'm like, he goes, what? I go, you don't understand the team dynamic. I go, there's not a situation as a coach where I'm going to allow a kid to, or no, people have to make their own decisions, and we work through it. But I'm never going to promote a kid going hunting for 2 days and missing practice while everybody else is still here working.
I was going to say, kid might want to look at the calendar for an off day.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. But that's the kind of mindset that we're dealing with nowadays.
For some reason, that reminded me of, I always get a kick out of my buddy Finney. He's the head coach at Old Dominion down in Norfolk. They're spitting distance to the beach, and man, I feel like ODU always pumps up the beach being close by, but I'm always laughing because I'm like, ain't none of those kids ever seen the beach when they're playing baseball? No shot.
Yeah.
No shot. They seen that stadium. They ain't going to the beach. There ain't no way. No way.
That's funny.
Well, this has been fun, man. This has been fun. I don't know if we necessarily solved anything in this last half of the call, but at least we're talking about it. And I think you put the opportunity in front of a family. If they think it's too expensive, you say, hey, here's some ways to do it. And they can either do it or not do it. That's on them.
I think there's a balance. I like some of the ideas that you had, and I definitely, we don't want to be, like I said, I don't want to take opportunities away from someone because they can't afford it. And we work through parents in that situation.
100%.
So I think there's definitely a balance for that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to have us on and talking about competitive edge baseball and just to promote us in Kansas City trying to do the right things for our players.
Man, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and you and I are gonna keep in touch. I wanna end this recording here, but I don't want you to hang up. All right?
All right.